So look, you're the Oregon grad. I'm going to defer to you on the Oregon preview. You know them better than I do, but let me just set the stage a little bit.
Please.
13-2 last season, lost to Indiana twice, once in the regular season, once in the playoff semifinals. You had Will Stein, the offensive coordinator, leave for Kentucky. Tosh Lupoi, formerly the defensive coordinator, he is now the head coach at Cal. They are 11th nationally in returning production. They're projected as the number 2 overall team in Bill Connolly's SP+. I'll say this. You can tell me if you think it's fair, okay? The questions for Oregon are less interesting than the ones I have about Ohio State, okay? But I feel like the ones I have about Oregon are far more existential.
Okay.
Like if we zoom in, it's 2 new coordinators promoted from within. What does that look like? Okay, that's the tactical stuff. But if we zoom out, the question, the cloud, I guess, that looms over Dan Lanning in the Oregon program at present is how does Oregon get over the hump? Because Oregon's been right there.
Yep.
They have. And Oregon's got the roster this year to go pretty damn far, if not win the whole thing. How does Oregon get over the hump is a question that, look, Lanning's going to have to answer for. Plenty of people throughout the history of sports have had to answer for this one. It's always the elusive question that at some point the greats have to answer. And that's where I think Oregon finds itself now as we go into 2026, which is why I say it's existential. How do you get past that, Dan? What is the answer? Has Dan Lanning found an answer?
It's a great question. I wish I could just plainly and simply tell you. To me right now, it is if Dante Moore, along with new offensive coordinator, internal promotion, Drew Maringer, are on the same page, and Dante Moore develops, and they just look flawless on 3rd and 7s, and are constantly getting to 3rd and 1s, and are dictating things, and are able to build up enough leads to build up depth on offense, with younger receivers or running backs or whatever. They should be in a special place. I think it would be very nice if Oregon's coordinators weren't also head coaches as they game plan for big playoff games. That would be nice.
Right.
But Oregon also lost to Indiana during the regular season in kind of embarrassing fashion in that 4th quarter. They were overwhelmed. So what's the difference in getting over the top? Really, it's just the little things coming through with new players ascending to starting roles or younger players taking over starting roles and looking like they have a plan in ways they didn't before. It was impossible before the season started last season to be like, what's going to go wrong? Fernando Mendoza is just going to have their number. The Cal quarterback transfer, who I think Oregon had beaten while he was at Cal.
That's right.
I think.
Yeah.
Is going to just own this Oregon team. The Indiana defensive front is going to give Dante Moore and the protection fits. That would have been a difficult ask twice, by the way, given fits. So they've exclusively lost to excellent teams these past 3 years under Dan Lanning. They bring back a ton on both sides of the ball. And so now it's a question of what does the evolution look like under like the broader umbrella of kind of similar expectations to where Penn State was last season. And it broke Penn State internally early on. Oregon had its own role in breaking Penn State last season. This is championship or bust. You pay the entire defensive line to come back. You have the experience in the secondary. You bring in somebody like Coy Parrish to take over at safety. The young corners who showed out very impressively last year are back. They paid to retain basically everywhere important along the starting 11s on both sides of the ball. It sends a clear message of anything less than a national championship in 2026 is coming up short. Whereas, yes, they took that step forward and made the Final Four last season before losing to Indiana. But when you look across this sport, there's no other team that brings back last year's accomplishment combined with this year's promise, right? You can say like, oh, Texas looks great with what they're bringing back. I don't believe they played in a playoff game last year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So Texas's next step with Arch Manning as a quarterback, with a lot of these players, is making and winning a game or two in the playoff, even though they themselves have national championship expectations. So Oregon is what looks to be the best defensive line in the country. They're elderly. which has been very helpful for recent teams in going deep in the tournament, if not winning the damn thing. So you can't really look at Oregon and say, this is a backbreaking weakness. Now, the linebackers aren't as good as other teams' linebackers, but they're okay. Jerry Mixon's pretty good. They replace, this receiver or that receiver. Well, they bring back one of the best receivers in the country when healthy in Evan Stewart, who looks to be fully healthy, next to DeCorian Moore, who also looks like a number one receiver. They bring in a 5-star receiver, a couple 5-star receivers. They lose Kenyon Sadiq. They might have the best tight end in the sport in Jamari Johnson. They lose their tackles. Their tackles were kind of looked at as their weak point along the offensive line last year, and they have experienced dudes who are probably stepping in, maybe even a true freshman stepping in at right tackle if things break a certain way. But this is a stacked team. The schedule is not perfect, but it's fine.
I mean, there are 3.5 games of this thing that scare me. They're at USC week 4. They're at Ohio State week 10. Week 10 again, please.
Huge.
First weekend in November, please get your affairs in order.
Yeah.
Don't do anything that day. There's a ton of football on. The following week, they are home against Michigan in week 11. And then they close out the year at home rivalry spot against the Washington Huskies. So, yeah, it's relatively spaced out. I guess more backloaded than front-loaded with respect to what they've got coming up in November. But all told, Oregon's over-under is 10.5. And I looked at this for probably, 5 hours over the last couple days, trying to make heads or tails of, where are the losses coming? Where are the matchups? I don't see them losing 2 games. I'm not sure I see them losing any games.
It's real tough. I mean, it's all poured into this year. And Chris Hampton, the new defensive coordinator, has been a co-DC, has been up in the sky while, Tosh Lupoy has been on the field and has been involved in game planning and play calling. They should be able to rush the passer. They should be able to cover receivers. They should be able to stuff runs. They've played against Ryan Day and they've played against Jeremiah Smith, and they've the experience and just the dirt under their fingernails is there. They've won close games. They've blown teams out. It doesn't look like their coordinators will be hired away in the middle of the portal season. It's hard to nitpick other than the fact that they have this elephant on their shoulders constantly. Don't fall for the Oregon thing again. They always come up short. It's not a season in which there is an obvious team who has also done what they've done in retaining the talent that they've retained. So, other than my own skepticism and having my own heart broken in January's, I think they're competing for the Big Ten championship. I do.
I think they are the Big Ten title.
And they don't have to play Indiana during the regular season.
Yeah,
so there's that.
I think they are the Big Ten champions. I've got them 12-0 winning the title.
Okay. 13-0.
In the Big Ten, yeah. So I guess 13-0. We'll talk about the playoff and all that stuff a little bit later on. It's kind of hard to project out who is playing whom. But with respect to the Big Ten, yeah, I've got Oregon over Ohio State.
Okay. I'm not there. I think I'm going to take.
Then who do you have winning Big Ten?
It's tough to say because Indiana misses Oregon and Oregon misses Indiana. Ohio State gets both, correct?
Right.
And there's nobody else I feel confident in on that level. Oregon gets Ohio State on the road during the regular season. I guess push comes to shove. I think Oregon goes 11-1, and I guess I'm going to flip it and say, yeah, Oregon's going to win the Big Ten championship. Maybe get revenge on Ohio State after losing that game in Columbus.
I do think it comes down to those 3 teams. We will talk about USC on our next episode. That was another one of these squads that you and I sort of kicked around a fair amount trying to figure out, all right, where do they slot in? How high can they go? Another situation where you've got a team with a brutal schedule. But I just, sometimes the easiest answer is the right answer. And it feels to me, just in looking at these teams with what is new, with what is changing, Ohio State's got the defense. Indiana's got a ton new that they're trying to replace and piece together. I think both teams will be outstanding. I think both of those squads will be in the playoff. But Oregon just has the fewest variables to me.
They do. I mean, there's the offensive line thing gives me a little bit of pause. 2 new tackles once again and a new guard. But there's a certain benefit of the doubt that they've earned up front that I can't linger on it too much because I think they're going to be able to overcome, game plan around whatever. Didn't even mention Jordan Davison and De'Aaron Hill's name in the backfield.
Right.
They're deep there. They're deep at receiver. We'll see what, tight end 2 looks like, right? Those are the questions now with Oregon. So it just feels like it's all pointing to 2026 for them. Thanks for watching, and thank you for at least considering subscribing to the channel. It means a ton.